Hey, hello. If you're new here, my name is Rain. If you're not new here, welcome back. I really appreciate you stopping on by to my little corner of the internet. If you can hear my cat, he will not be quieting down, so not sorry. But in today's video, I will be finishing up a sketch I started on Horsetail of Horsetail, or Equisteum tilmatia. And with that, if you feel creative and do anything artsy or just fun alongside me, and you're comfortable sharing, I would love to hear about it down in the comments. I'd love to know what the people who watch my content get up to and what they like to do whilst they listen to my content. And if you have the time, I know my videos are long, so no hate, I get it. If you have the time to watch all the way through to the end where you can see the finished product, I would really appreciate it, because I do want to know, particularly if you guys think that I kind of accomplish my ultimate objective for this illustration. So I would love to know. If not, I get it. My videos are long. You don't want to skip to the end and see it? That's chill too. I get it. Wow, thanks Outlook. This is a horrible time. But I guess with that Outlook notification, really? I guess with that Outlook notification harassing me on two ends, we can get into the actual overall topic of today's video, which is my horsetail drawing and generally why I'm making it, and just all of that fun jazz, right? So horsetail is a plant pre-angiosperm, so it's not a flowering plant, and so with that, I just don't feel like I appreciate it as much as I should, right? So little background, I have an event happening. I'm not hosting it. There is an event happening. Not super locally to me, but nearby enough, and they're having a call for artists to make coloring pages of the kind of natural stuff that's in the area so that people who attend can color and have fun. And I submitted my Lichen drawings. I don't think I've actually shared all of them on my channel. I think I'll make a little video about that, going over it, because it was a really educational process. So if you guys want to see my 10 Lichen scientific illustrations, let me know. Those are all complete and definitely not all posted to my social media, which I should do. But with that, I submitted them, asked if they wanted more of my work and if they liked it, and they were like, yes, absolutely. And so, while I definitely am not creating in a way that is particularly coloring friendly the way you would expect, they didn't have any qualms with how I approached it originally. They didn't have any, well, they didn't have any qualms with taking my Lichen illustrations and bringing that into the kind of coloring page roster. And so I said, hey, if you're chill with my kind of art style and how I approached these, I would be happy to make more, but let me know, because if I do make more, I want to make sure that I'm making it how you guys want it. You know, it's just an open call, you know, we're not getting paid for this and stuff like that, but I would, you know, I would like to know, because, you know, it's kind of fun. It's fun creating for something kind of casual and playful as like a nature event locally, you know? And so I just wanted to know that I was like hitting the criteria, and if they were okay with my more hatchy, dark style, then, you know, like a classic coloring book, just simple, not simple, but kind of straight line work, not, you know, hatching, not kind of putting dimensions to the shading and all of that fun stuff. So I asked, and they said, yeah, no, we like it, and you're free to do more if you're comfortable. And they had horsetails as one of the listed things that they wanted illustrated for their event in the document. And I was like, wow, you know what? I've never really thought about horsetail and kind of drawing it before, you know? I think that generally when you're doing a botany degree, you kind of leave the non-angiosperms pretty quickly in terms of the education. I don't think I've returned to non-flowering plants since my introduction to botany course. I think that I had one class where I had to know the kind of evolutionary track of plants, and that's the only time I've had to talk about horsetails and ferns since. And so I was thinking about how I really, really love flowering plants and how they're a large part of why I went into botany for my degree, how I wanted to be a fieldwork botanist, to be very fair. I was hoping to, before my chronic illness got worse, I was hoping to do the study of parasitic and carnivorous plants. I was hoping to go into doing surveying of parasitic and carnivorous plants because I just think they're so cool. I mean, plants that eat meat and digest and like suck the life out of other plants for their survival. How wild is that, right? I find it super, super interesting. Like, it's just beyond fascinating to me, okay? I love parasitic and carnivorous plants. So, that as an aside, I was like, oh, there is so much inherent beauty to the rest of the plant world, and this is a really good opportunity to force myself to sit down and really appreciate the plants that brought us to where we are today with flowering plants, right? Horsetail and ferns, they're not flowering plants. They do photosynthesize and all of that stuff, but they don't produce a fruit the way flowering plants like, grass and apple trees and cherries and all of your classic standard fruits, cucumber plants, pumpkin plants, all of those are botanically speaking a fruit, right? They're the reproductive organ or baby thing, right? They're a means of reproduction, right? And so horsetails and ferns don't do that. Neither do gymnosperms, so like pine trees, redwoods, all of that stuff. This is an art channel, not a science channel. I must be boring you, but I'll be quick, I promise. These are the plants before we started having like that need for pollination and pollinators quite as intensely to kind of pollinate flowers because they weren't flowering plants. These are the plants that kind of predated the plants that surround us today. And so I think that we owe, not we, but I as somebody who loves plants and has so much love for flowers and flowering plants and the reproductive capabilities of plants, the types of fruits they make. I mean, grass is a fruiting body plant, right? Like they produce a fruit, not a fruit we eat, but a fruit. And like, how wild is that to think about, right? The grass we walk on produces fruiting bodies that spread seeds for their survival, things like that, right? It's wild to think about. And so these are the plants, horsetails and ferns, and redwoods and all of that, gymnosperms. They're the plants that predate what we are appreciating and valuing en masse today. And for me, it's just something where I'm really like, I feel like I haven't done my due diligence of really appreciating and respecting just the entire slew of plants that exist, right? I think that plants, even the most disgusting and foul of plants that exist, plants that are like fly pollinated, so they're super stinky, they smell like dead stuff and just waste and trash, they're still beautiful for their capacity and dedication to survival, right? And their ability to attract their very particular pollinator for their own benefit and reproduction and things like that. Plants are just such amazing things, right? They're so interesting and they're so diverse. I mean, I don't know how to articulate better that they are just remarkable and really, really interesting to study. And so with that, an opportunity to sit down and force myself to kind of look at the horsetail and kind of just really sit there and think, okay, what is this? What is its inherent beauty? What do I love about it? What do I not like about it? What qualities of it do I want to bring into an illustration? All of that stuff was kind of just for my own kind of personal enjoyment, things like that. And so I understand that drawing a horsetail is probably not the most interesting of topics in the world, but I found it a really, really cathartic and enjoyable experience because they are simple. Not visually speaking, but they are among the simpler types of plants, they're ancient, right? So overall, what I said would be a quick explanation later turned into like 6 minutes of me ranting about plants, but I very much value the experience I went through in choosing to illustrate this and all of that. And with that, I additionally am very curious from an outsider perspective looking at this. Is there a interest? So this is my question for the rest of the video to have in the back of your mind. Is this a thing that you would willingly color or find beauty in or find an attraction to, right? If you saw this, would you feel inclined to kind of sit down and think about it a little bit longer and appreciate it? Because I do think that I have some artistic shortcomings when it comes to some of the techniques that are required for this. And now that I'm really thinking about it, I do want to spend more time in my scientific illustration component, broader appreciating plants of various types and kind of capturing their beauty with a bit more dedication, right? My Lichen project, it was a project for a class where I had to just do lichens, and there was an educational component where I was asked to and required to go through the process of writing out information and kind of doing research on the particular lichens that I was drawing, putting it on the back. So those are pretty illustrations on the front, but there's like research components on the back of those papers. Not a whole lot, but their range where they exist, the type of plants, or not plants, the sediment that they like to live on, rock, dirt, trees, as lichens do. So there's a research component to that. And so even if I didn't like it at the end of the day, it was for a project and I didn't have to think about it any further. Now that I'm outside of that and my scientific illustration component can be dedicated to the art a little bit more than it had been previously, I really want that what I create to appeal to people who might be interested in coloring it or looking at it or learning more or just appreciating it as an art form. And so I'm very, very open to critiques on how to better approach making these little sheets more enticing to people and how to better make people want to appreciate it, right? I think that is kind of I don't want to say an obligation, but at least an interpersonal duty that I feel, like a personal obligation I feel when I'm doing something like creating an illustration about a plant or something like that. I want people to want to look at it, right? I do create my art first and foremost for myself because I think that is the key to being happy as an artist and maintaining your mental health, is to create for yourself first and foremost, and then appreciate and kind of cultivate the bonds that you make with people who also like your work, right? When we as artists are creating, I do wholeheartedly believe that it's not good for us to pursue what other people want to see, right? There's all of those sayings. I can't quote anybody. I feel bad. I can't quote anyone. I'm sorry. But there are sayings, there are tellings of something along the lines of, if everyone likes your art, then you're not really truly making art, or you're not truly actually telling anything or creating something of value. And I don't necessarily believe in that sentiment. I do think that if you exclusively find people liking your art and you create something that the people in your circle and the people who see it exclusively enjoy, then you shouldn't beat yourself up and think that your art is of subpar quality because everyone enjoyed it, right? I think rather instead we should understand that just because we have 100, 200 people who are liking this one piece of art, or even 5 people, that does not mean that the rest of the 8 billion people on the planet are going to inherently like and value your work, right? Excluding babies. Babies don't count here. People who have the ability to kind of critically understand and appreciate art. Maybe your art is not appropriate for people of certain demographics to look at. Things like that. Those are people who might not like your work, but they're not your target audience. My target audience is people who like my work and like what I do and enjoy sitting here with me and creating art alongside me, things like that. That's my target audience. People who like what I do as much as I like what I do, right? Or more, or maybe a little bit less, right? And I'm very, very aware not everybody likes my work. People, whether they say it or not, I don't expect everyone to like my work, right? And with that, I don't think anyone should expect everyone to like their work. However, I additionally think that at the end of the day, we don't need to place value or not place value, but we don't need to hold people's negative opinions to much of a standard as artists, because we should be creating for ourselves first and foremost, and if other people don't like it, then that is fine, right? You should be your biggest fan of your work, right? Or at the very least, at the end of the day, you should be happy with what you created, whether that be because you truly like how it came out, or you are happy that you created anything at all, or you're happy for a future where you do it even better than you just did it. Things like that, right? I think at the end of the day, so long as we are loving and valuing our own work for what it means for us, even if we feel defeated in the moment, there's a value that I find in being frustrated at the way a project turned out, and then looking back at it weeks later and finding that beauty in it. I think that it's a lot easier for us in the moment to not like our work, and then when we've had time to reflect and we've had time to think about it and we look back at it, we are more inherently proud of ourselves for completing it or trying or pushing ourselves and things of that nature. But I do my best to tell myself that I should be the biggest fan of my work. Even if it's not inherently true, I should not be making work that I don't enjoy making. I should not be creating art that I'm not passionate about and I'm not excited about, right? I should love the art that I make eventually, or at least the process of making it. If you're frustrated when working, maybe it's time to sit down and work on a different project. If you're frustrated with anatomy, maybe you need to take a couple steps back and really practice that particular pose a little bit more. Do some gestures, step away, and then come back with a fresh mind, right? I try to look at art as something that is never going to be something 100% inherently satisfactory in the exact moment, but something that I should always be able to look back on and be like, I am proud of myself for pushing through, I'm proud of myself for trying, I'm proud of myself for coming across and defeating hurdles, or I'm proud of myself now because I know what I did wrong and I know how to do it better, right? If we, as artists and as people, allow ourselves to constantly beat ourselves up over the quality of our work, the things that we're creating, we're never going to be happy, and we're going to suck our own joy out of being artists. And I think I discussed it in my last video or the video before last. No, definitely the last video. I have comments on it that I really, really enjoyed engaging with. The people who commented on that video, if you're here, thank you so much. You guys provided such wonderful insight for a beautiful discussion on what it means to be an artist, and I really appreciate it. I love getting to engage with other people, right? And to have people happy to kind of chat with me and engage in my weird questions that I pose in the video, it means a lot to me, right? So, circling back to where I think I was going with this, I think that everybody is an artist if they create art. Even if nobody in the world likes it other than them, so long as they're creating it, they are an artist. Because I don't think we should ever deny people the ability of being a creative individual, right? There are things that I might not inherently think are creative, and they can be the most artistic and creative outlet for that person. And it can be their idea of art. And I don't really feel like it's our responsibility as a society to deny them the pleasure of feeling like a creative person and feeling like an artist when they do this craft. Even if we en masse don't really understand maybe why, like, building sandcastles is some form of art for these people. Sandcastles was a horrible example. But if these people are doing something creative and this cathartic for them, I think that we should value that. Unless you make AI generated content, then do it on your own dime and don't post it like you're, a qualified artist. I feel like I didn't word that appropriately. I do not condone AI image generation for profit or for business purposes, things like that. I had a coworker. What? I had a peer whom had a very, very interesting take on AI, and he said he would never use AI to actually produce content and claim it as his own, and that he would never use AI in any sort of published manner. But he did say that AI helped him to get his ideas out so that he could tell an artist generally how he wants his book cover to look. And I was thinking, you know what? Maybe AI has a use to convey an idea to an artist that somebody doesn't know how to articulate, and that can be an inherent value, and that does create a benefit for somebody. I do not condone selling AI generated images. I do not condone taking work from artists because of AI. I do not condone making any sort of kind of monetary or interpersonal decision to cut an artist out of something because of AI. I have consistently found people saying that AI has been failing in the media industry. Threads is a wonderful place for seeing the way that people who actually work in animation and stuff like that have found AI to be completely useless and very bad, right? People who are using AI image generation are not capable of recreating the exact same image twice and then applying critiques that professionals are making, right? If you are producing AI generated imagery, you are not going to be able to survive in a workplace where you need to be able to make these fine-tuned, very detailed changes because AI isn't capable of doing that yet. AI isn't where we need it to be to actually benefit the art world. And with that, I don't really believe that AI can ever truly be a wholly creative pursuit. I also feel inclined to say that if people aren't profiting, they aren't publishing it, they're not claiming it as their own, they're not claiming to be an artist, what people do privately in their bedroom and never tell anybody ever, I don't really know that I have a leg to stand on saying, no, you can't use AI to generate particular images that you're never going to publish anywhere. And with that, I don't know. I'm open to a discussion. I think that artists should be paid for their work. I think that artists should be paid for having their art stolen for AI training. I think that artists should get a commission when people use AI generators if their work has been put in the program. Things like that. Artists deserve to be paid. Their work should have never been stolen. That is copyrighted material. AI is incapable of being copyrighted as it stands because it is not real. It's not real art as it stands, right? I have those thoughts. Those are very firm. I trust, because I have no choice but to trust, that our legal system will properly punish people who steal work from artists as the time comes. And I think that AI is generally, artistically speaking, a bad thing. It's being used to create horrible, disgusting, foul material that is abusive in nature, and that it needs to have legal repercussions assigned to it and applied to it. And I am probably not the place to have that discussion. I generally think AI overall is not great and people should avoid it to the best of their ability, and that we need to legislate it accordingly. I live in the US, it needs to be legislated accordingly to protect children, individuals, people, everything. That all needs to be done in our country, right? People should be protected from AI. People deserve to not have defamation applied to them through all of this stuff. And I don't really know how this became an AI conversation, because I think AI is controversial for stealing from artists for creative reasons, right? And so when I tell people that as long as they're being creative and it's cathartic for them, that we should be kind to them, I don't know if I can apply that morally, even to people who are doing it privately, because you are still stealing from artists to produce that imagery. And I don't know if you should be able to find praise within that. I don't know how to articulate it. Morally, I think artists really do need to be paid for their work, and that as the world stands with AI image generation, we're not there yet. And this is a very nuanced conversation. However, I do not think that the art world is going to be bringing AI in on any professional level anytime soon. And I do believe AI image generation is going to die out, pretty similar to NFTs. I'm going to be real. People were so up in arms and scared and weirded out about NFTs and the blockchain and all of that cryptocurrency art stuff. And it's dead to us now. We've basically forgot about it. It's almost like it never happened. And I kind of expect the same thing to happen with AI image generation. And so I'm not particularly stressed about it. But I'm also not stressed about it because I have way more subscribers here than I ever imagined I would have, right? I never expected to get more than 100 subscribers, but I have 900 of you, whether you watch all my videos or not. 900 people here who enjoy watching me create. And I have 900 people here who enjoy sitting with me once a week to create art. I have people who like to engage in discussions with me in the comments. I have people who like my videos and say that they like to be creative alongside me. And at the end of the day, those people aren't going to leave, right? You guys, my subscribers, people who are here, you're not going to leave because AI is all of a sudden a quote-unquote better artist than me, right? Because you would have already left for an artist of a higher skill set than me by now, right? I'm of the belief that there is always an artist that is quote-unquote better than us by our own perception. And if AI was going to conquer me artistically, then you would have found a different artist right out the gate. You would have never been here in the first place, right? And that's because there is a charm and a beauty and a human connection to art creation and to conversation. There is a catharsis that we as a community and people can find in sitting down and talking about art, creating together, enjoying these things. I mean, people get paid to be art therapists, right? I had someone ask me today if I ever considered going into art therapy as a profession and if I would be open to that. I said no, because I don't really want to get a psychology degree. I have 2 degrees. I do not need a psychology degree on top of that, right? But it was a really, really magical moment to have somebody remind me that we have people who pay to go to art therapy, to create art in a controlled environment as a way to be beneficial to them mentally, right? And so with that, I'm of the belief that there is always going to be the love for the human connection that comes with art, and that artists shouldn't be scared of AI at all. Really, we will always be able to improve artistically on an interpersonal level. Interpersonal was not the right word. On a personal level, right? You, me, we will always be able to improve. We will always be able to hone our skills, and we will always be getting better at what we do and what we love. And with that, there are no limitations for us. we, as long as we're dedicated to being an artist and to enjoying our work and doing all of this stuff, as long as we do it, we're gonna get there, right? We're going to be artists. We're going to make ourselves happy with the work we create. And even if you're not happy right now, 2 years from now, when you look back on the sketchbook you might be working in right now, you're going to be amazed at how far you made it. When I look at my art now and I feel like I'm not making progress, I feel like I'm not doing anything, my work is bad, I'm not amounting to anything, I look back at my first sketchbook and I think of how proud I was when I made those illustrations all those years ago, okay? Kind of a weird side tangent, I replayed IB, the RPG horror game, 7 times this week. I replayed it 7 times this week to get the achievement of finding all 150 art pieces in it. Yeah. I messed up multiple endings. Multiple times. Which is irrelevant. But when I was playing, I remembered about how when I started creating art for myself, for my mental health, for my mental well-being all of those years ago, 4, 5, 6-ish years ago, Abe was still a pretty popular and a bit more of a new game at the time. I don't know how old it was when I was in that sketchbook, but I remember drawing Gary fan art, Gary from Abe, and I remember being so proud of it. I remember feeling magical and feeling like a god because I just drew my favorite character from a video game. And I did that with Mystic Messenger. I did that with a lot of fandoms over the years. Sally Face, Ebe, Mystic Messenger, the Arcana, the mobile game, the Arcana, all of that stuff, right? And like when I look back at it and I remember how proud I was and how quickly I went through that sketchbook, and oh my gosh, my horrible Howl's Moving Castle fan art, oh my gosh, I need to roast past me for that one of these days. It's amazing what I made with so much confidence when I was younger. But when I look back at that and I remember where I was at, I'm like, wow, I have come away. I have progressed. You know, if I put my old art side by side with my new art, it is glaringly obvious that I have improved. So when you feel like you're not improving, just know that you 3 years from now are going to be amazed at how much better your work looks, skill set wise. And it's going to feel really good. You're going to be proud of yourself in a few years. And so even if you're not seeing that progress in this exact moment, it is happening. You are honing a skill. You are exercising a muscle in your brain, right? You are getting better at something whether you realize it or not. And because of that, you are just a never-ending improving individual who is honing a skill and pursuing a passion. Whether you want to be an artist professionally or this is a hobby for you, you are getting better at it. And that is beautiful. And your catharsis and your happiness is amazing, right? When I was 16, 15 and a half, 16, and I was in a really bad mental health place, and I was considering bad things, and I was looking for an outlet, and I started art as a way to better myself and as a way to take care of my mental health. 15 and a half-year-old me would have never believed that I would be accepted into a Masters of Fine Art program. 15 and a half-year-old me didn't even think they'd be alive today. 15 and a half-year-old me never imagined that I could make art like the art I'm making, right? 15 and a half-year-old me would have never known that what started out as a way to mitigate severe depression would become my greatest passion and hobby ever. Little brother's dog so kindly interrupted my entire train of thought, so I returned to you 20 minutes later with no idea what I was talking about even after listening to the audio back. I think what I was about to say and where I was going with it is that no matter how disappointed I am of my work in the moment, I am very aware, mindset wise, that I have to remember that we are always progressing, and that just because it feels like I'm not at the skill set I need to make the work. Wow, my hands are orange. I'm sorry. While I'm not at the skill set I might need to make the work the way I want to, I will be there one day, and that the more I try and the more I push myself, the closer I will get to accomplishing that goal in the future, right? And so I guess that's where I was kind of trying to go with it. And I think I just kind of gave like a 25-minute inspirational speech that no one asked for. Woo! This is why I need to start writing scripts. I'll have a script for my video after next on typography and my typography class. At least enough of a script that you won't get an unhinged rant about mindset as an artist and motivational speaking, right? Yeah. There's probably channels dedicated to motivational art speaking now that I think about it, and I actually might look into that and just see if it makes me feel better. Or if it makes me feel worse. Who knows? I don't know. It's a good thought. I never thought about that. But I guess more so that we're getting kind of closer to the end of the video. Don't look at the timestamp, I swear. I swear when it comes to me and my unwinding crazy mind and how I process and formulate thoughts, we're getting near the end for me and my tangents, I promise. But there is kind of this thought now that it's mostly done, and it kind of could be an enemy in a Souls game if I gave it eyeballs. Don't think about that, because I just thought about it, and now I'm not happy. But, actually circling back to it, horsetails have a whorl kind of quote-unquote leaf output. The spiny things that come off. Spines are actually a botanical scientific term. These are not spines. Spines are big, sharp armaments for protecting plants. Thorns, spines, and prickles. Roses have prickles. Hawthorn has thorns, and I can't think of something with spines off the top of my head. So spines is a bad word. The leafy thingies that are squishy and come off in whorls, they are very consistent in how far apart they are and kind of shape and everything. And so I was finding that actually like getting those whorls to overlap how I want them to and to imply that they go all the way around and do the overlap in a way that's like accurate to reality was actually quite the challenge that I didn't anticipate and did not actually accomplish quite how I had hoped that I would. In the sketching process, it felt really fine, and because it doesn't matter when you're sketching if you're overlapping your lines, if you can follow it, I was able to get that kind of back end stuff to pop out where I wanted it to continue to show that the stuff in the back is there and it's consistently a pain. Because it's not like they come out all at the exact same angle and the exact same length and all of that. When we're talking about a horsetail, I will make a marker right here in the video to put a picture up. They do go in different directions in terms of like up and down. They don't all perfectly come out at the exact same angle. And so some of them are popping up, some of them are popping down, some of them are getting mingled in with the bottom layers and snagged on things and all of that jazz, you know, as flimsy plant stuff does. And so when it actually like came to trying to convey that, I just got confused. I didn't know where to start lining to make my lines line up the best way possible while also working with the overlap. I don't think that that makes perfect sense, but I have something that's in front in one capacity, but under an upper layer, and trying to process how I wanted to go about lining it so that I was able to ensure my lines were just consistent, not going in different directions. They looked like they were connected to each other just in the kind of background. I was confused. I confused myself. And I don't know that I quite captured Horsetail the way that I wanted to. And I'm usually very dependent when it comes to illustrating and kind of drawing things. I'm very keen on, at the very least, trying to use darkness and line width to imply foreground, background, middle ground, and that stuff. But I also don't want to be too heavy-handed. See, if I were to have done this without wanting it to all be fillable, I probably would have made most of those back ends dark at least halfway through their green armament thing. Can you tell in beginner botany that they don't really talk about horsetails enough? Because I have no recollection off the top of my head what the things that stick off of a horsetail are called, because I don't know if they're actually considered leaves structurally or not. Off the top of my head, I promise. But they're probably just called leaves, honestly. But I'm gonna call them leaves. It's easier. It's easier for my tiny, tiny brain. But the stuff in the back end, I would have made it dark halfway up if I didn't want it to be colorable. And so I was kind of trying to find a middle ground between my artistic desire and my way of kind of compensating for my shortcoming of kind of the overlapping of the planes of the drawing and actually being something people could color. And this was a really, really interesting kind of challenge for me, because the way I approach kind of compensating for my own shortcomings by finding middle ground, or not middle ground, by finding kind of compensatory things artistically, line weights and filling in spaces that allows me to kind of get across what I had failed to do in a different way, wouldn't really adhere to my objective of trying to make this colorable, at least a little bit. And so I'm very, very interested on how it reads to other people, because I might scan it, have it ready to just put into the drive where it needs to go, and then go back and fill in those back bits darker, and just kind of challenge myself to try again. I don't know if I should try again. I don't know if it's as bad as I think it is, because frankly, I don't even know if it's bad or if I'm just confused. Like, I really just could not properly comprehend my own perception of what I was doing somewhere in here. And I was just adding more and more to try and fix the fact that I don't know what I'm doing. I feel so out of my zone that it's a very good thing the next thing I'm drawing for them is allium, because at the very least allium is a flowering plant and I know what it looks like. Yeah, Horsetail was definitely a challenge for me, and it definitely showed me a shortcoming artistically. I am not good at kind of creating that sense of depth that I need to for some plants, and so I am very much looking forward to actually practicing this more with other plants, but I also kind of want other people's opinions on how well it reads to other people, so I can kind of better assess how far I need to go in practicing this and in what direction I need to kind of put it. So yeah, I'm also probably going to post this in some critique channels on some Discords I'm in. I I love art discords. I love critique channels where I can say, hey, help. I love it. I love the open community aspect that Discord and things of that nature provide. And so I do ask you guys, of course, because you guys are my community. You are the people that are most familiar with my work on a consistent level, and kind of the way my work tends to turn out. And so I very much deeply value the way you guys perceive my work and how you guys interpret it, because you have that familiarity. But I also want to ask as many people as possible, because this is actually something I'm very passionate about, scientific illustration. I recently joined a scientific illustration discussion on LinkedIn. I have no idea how active it is yet or anything like that, but it's something that I find really, really exciting, right? I love looking at other people's plant drawings, scientific drawings in general, although plants are my favorite, and then animals, and then maybe bugs last. Yeah, bugs are probably last. I really like the way other people draw bugs, but bugs also kind of stress me out, and they make me overwhelmed and anxious. They're so detailed for how tiny they are. And it's like, wow, you are the size of my thumbnail, and yet you are the hardest, most complex thing I've ever even looked at in my life. And you require me to be extremely good at symmetry. Like, I can't even draw a straight line with a ruler somehow. I don't know what it is about me, but I cannot make a ruler go straight across a page, not at a diagonal. And I'm supposed to draw a bug? Never gonna happen. I just don't have the brain for it. I can't. I don't have the like capacity and the understanding I need for it. So, you know, I love seeing other people's work, but it also kind of like makes me feel bad about myself. If you can hear my cat, she is going in on her fur right now. Absolutely cleaning the hell out of her neck. That's what the gurgling is, if you're hearing it, of course. However, additionally, I think that overall, really looking forward to, if you guys are interested, producing more scientific illustrations and maybe doing like one scientific illustration a month, if you guys would be interested in seeing that sort of work from me. I don't know, I just feel like I have a lot to learn in this realm, and as an artist who very, very much likes scientific illustration, has a lot of respect for the people who do the illustrations in textbooks and things like that, this is a really good place to just continue doing it. But if you guys aren't interested in seeing it, I will definitely continue to do it and maybe just pop it in here and there, share it every once in a while, put it at the end of videos or sketchbook tours. Maybe I'll bring in the illustrations I worked on that didn't make it into videos and things like that. I'm not sure. I'll see where I'm going with it. I'm thinking about making an entire term of my MFA. I think it's split into 2 4-weeks every semester, so maybe one of my 4-week terms will just be me churning out scientific illustrations, and it'll be something like that, really fun, where I get a lot of intense critique. I start my MFA on the 28th, so I will be making maybe semesterly, so there are 3 semesters, fall, spring, and summer, where I'm going. So I will probably be making semesterly. I'm doing an MFA, so you don't have to, where I talk about my pros and cons, the things that come out of it. I will hopefully be collecting a lot of really, really good critiques that I can bring to the table and put out there about my own work, because I think something that I really like when other art YouTubers do is, I'm not an art YouTuber, I'm an artist that makes YouTube videos. I don't think I qualify as a YouTuber, actually. I don't know. But one thing I really like is when other people talk about critiques that their work has received, or things that they're like, oh, this ended up being really bad, and if I was to do this again, I would change this, because I think that gives us a very good perspective of how to maybe look at our own art and kind of do compositions that are better, right? Things like that. So I'm definitely very much considering and hoping to kind of produce that sort of content, or at the very least, like, open it up, you know? So I don't know. I'm just ranting at this point, I swear. But actually, okay, so I hate getting to the end of my videos, but if you have any thoughts about this drawing at all, good or bad, critiques, whatever, as long as it's respectfully put criticism, I would love to hear it. It is one of the most important things to me as an artist to seek improvement when I'm doing something that is so out of my comfort zone, like this illustration was apparently for me. And so, if you have any thoughts at all, I would love to hear it. If you have any thoughts about anything I discussed throughout my video, any of my weird, unhinged, ranty topics that I tend to just absolutely go off onto for whatever reason, I would also really, really like to know and engage in a conversation below, respectfully, of course, please. Try to, even if you really, really disagree with something or somebody, to at least be polite and not use ad hominem attacks against people, because I think that that's just not how we get through to people we disagree with. I hate AI art, right? I hate AI image creation. However, I don't think that being mean to people who do it is the best way to get through to them that we have differing opinions and that it might not be good for artists, right? Things like that, right? Being nice and trying to hold an air of professionalism while engaging in these is important to making sure that your voice is heard. And that is one of the only things college has really, really gotten through my tiny, tiny skull. No, tiny, tiny brain and my thick skull. So if you can be nice, I would love to engage in a conversation. I love chatting about different opinions, and I'm very open to respectful debates. But please be nice. No mean words, no hate, no nothing bad, okay? We love and welcome people of all sorts of communities, and we do not want to be mean to anybody, right? Great, because I know AI can be a hard-hitting and controversial topic. So, comment if you're comfortable and you want to chat. If you don't want anyone to reply to you and you want to put your opinion out there, put it at the top of your comment. And that includes me. If you don't want me to reply, let me know at the top of the comment. If you just want to put your stuff out there, that is cool. I support it. I condone it, because I do think that people deserve to be able to kind of put their thoughts out of there and then not engage. Or just like turn off notifications for your comment. That's fine too. So there's that. And then, like, if you like, dislike if you dislike, subscribe if you're interested and you want to see more of my content, or as Read with Cindy, one of my favorite booktubers, says, unsubscribe. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, night, wherever you are, and I hope to see you in my next video on Saturday next week, where I will go over lichens. So, bye-bye!